Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I'm your guest host. My name is Dr. Nasir, and we've got something great on tap for you. It's our continuing series, The Vice Debates, Part 4. This is where they brought together people from various backgrounds, gun owners and gun users, liberals, progressives, moderates, independents, Republicans, ask them questions on gun safety, the Second Amendment, school shooting, defund the police, all that. You'll be surprised at this discussion, folks. It's part 4. But before we do so, if you haven't done it, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. Put your comments down below. Let us know what you think. Let's get to the Vice Debates, part 4, right now.
Defend myself and my children against two guys who have AR-15s. Tell me how. And you said yourself that the police may not make it there in time. Tell me how.
You know what? The best chance you got in a situation like that is to get out the house.
She just stated that they reach
30
far.
rounds a piece? That's 90 rounds of bullets firing through the home.
I can outrun that?
You need to get out of the house.
Oh, sir, I stand my ground. Sorry.
Thank you all for the gun question, because we keep talking about mental health, and there are specific laws that deal with this. Red flag laws. If someone has a mental health crisis, those laws exist to try to take the gun away from that person before they commit a crime. How do we feel about that?
I'm pretty pro red flag laws. I understand that these laws should be implemented very carefully. There's a lot that goes into the rules portion of passing these bills that should be very well thought out. But I think the overarching question needs to become, do you agree that people who are in certain situations should have guns or not? But I personally think that there are characteristics you can meet, there are situations you can be in where, yeah, I do not want you owning a gun.
Well, I think the question is not so much whether or not people should have guns in certain situations. I think most people would agree, there are certain people who should not have guns. But I think the question is more so, will the United States of America truly take away guns from those that need to have their guns taken away? And I think the answer to that question is no. The United States of America has very easily labeled people criminal that they should not be labeling criminal. And they're more concerned about profiting off of that label than they are actually preventing violence. And so the question is not so much should red flag laws exist. The question is more so, will the United States of America actually enforce the law the way it needs to be enforced? And no, the United States will not.
I'm curious, who are the people?
The United States is already enforcing laws, honey. Let me do some mansplaining to you, baby. Got to mansplain it to you so you understand. You understand? I mansplain it. The United States already has, there are so many laws that are already on the books. More laws by liberals and leftists and lunatics like you just think that just because you write something down in black and white is going to stop something. It's not. We know that by history, but you guys keep repeating history over and over again. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? It's not happening here, folks. Every time they put some type of a law for a gun law, it strips away slowly the gun rights and the Second Amendment rights that are afforded to us by the Constitution. That's why they do the gun laws, to keep chipping away at it. It's like just to take it, chipping away, little bit at a time, little bit at a time. Same thing to do with red flag laws. That's what it's going to do. It's trying to strip away the powers of gun ownership. So to basically say that the United States doesn't do it, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. These are just leftist, liberal, lunatic points that you bring up, and nobody rebuts them because they're either afraid to tell you or they don't know themselves.
Who you think shouldn't have guns? You say there are certain people. What do you have in mind?
Good
Well, I
follow-up.
certainly think plenty of right-wing ideologues should not have guns. They think
There we go. Right-wing ideologues. I'm going to rewind this again because now it's starting to getting a little bit to the point where we got to understand exactly where these people are coming from. Right-wing ideologues. Forget about left-wing ideologues. Forget about Black Lives, Matter. Forget about any of the domestic other terrorist organizations out there. No. Right-wing ideologues. Geez, I wonder who you could be talking about, honey. We got to mansplain this to you, baby. We got to mansplain this thing to you. It's got to take a lot of mansplaining. And even after we do, you probably still won't understand because guess what? You're too racist and bigoted in your own views to understand anything. That's the problem. I got to rewind this here. You got to hear this thing again here from this girl. Let's go back to the question. And let's see. I think there it is.
No, the United States will not.
I'm curious, who are the people who you think shouldn't have guns? You say there are certain people. What do you have in mind?
Well, I certainly think plenty of right-wing ideologues should not have guns. I think plenty of violently anti-trans people should not have guns. I think violent misogynists should not have guns. I think violent racists should not have guns. I think those who have the audacity to believe in ideology that is, in fact, an incredible danger to most of us who are in society that do not look like them, should not have access to guns.
With all this legislation.
You know what? I think, honey, that, you don't look like someone that I think should have a gun, because you have a very racist, ideologically bent, bigoted, phobic ideology against me, against other people that like guns, that want guns legally to use them for a hunt, to pass it on for tradition. I think your ideology is based on lack of diversity, lack of opinion on your part, and is so centrally focused just on those groups that don't even exist, that I think you shouldn't have a gun either, honey. That's what I think. Let's go to the police officer.
The question is, who do we have drawing it up? The people who never owned a gun, or the people that have owned guns? What's the right answer? I don't have that. I think everyone should have a right to carry a gun, but we've touched on it. If you're a violent person, you shouldn't have it. Domestic violence history, shouldn't have it. Drug trafficking, sex trafficking, because a lot of times in the law enforcement world, when you have a lot of drugs, you end up having a couple guns. If you're sex trafficking, there's someone probably with a gun.
How are we going to make sure bias isn't playing a part? The people who are enforcing the red flag laws, there are some elitist people in this country who feel like, well, only we should be protected by firearms. The onus should not be on our government. I think as a society, as an adult in this country, there should be some responsibility in knowing yourself and being able to identify when you are okay, when you're not okay. So I think we need to figure out a way to give the people the tools they need to identify themselves. Hey, I'm not okay. Hey, I don't need to have my firearms right now. Hey, I probably am going to hurt myself or someone else, and then provide the resources to do that.
I mean, that sounds great in theory. In reality, though, that's not going to happen every time. And I'm curious what you think is the threshold where somebody should say, you can't have a gun anymore.
I don't think that decision should hinge on one person or just an attorney or just a judge or just a mental health professional, because I've seen in a lot of these red flag instances, these people never get their firearms back. Well, if my mental health is declined this day or this month is tough for me, but then I go to therapy or I fix myself and I'm better months from now, I should have my rights restored. You can't keep them forever, right? I think there should be a process for that as well.
I think those protections and checks and balances are just critical, because right now America criminalizes black men. There's no doubt about it. I've been through it. I've never been caught for some type of violence offense, but I've had guns drawn on me by law enforcement 5 times, right? When I was shot, when I arrived at the hospital, I wasn't met with a nurse or a doctor or a surgeon. I was met with 3 investigators, and they asked me, where's my gun? And in my situation, they were more focused on solving the crime than saving my life. And I think we have to really see that reality that's impacting our communities every day before we push forward laws and legislation that adds more authority and resources to a system that's biased against us already.
So there's a lot of times that there's a red flag law that's called, and there's uniformed police officers who go to remove a firearm from the situation, who might have biases, who might have racial ideologies in their head. And I think that's a lot of confrontation. I feel like there's a lack of training. The police officers that go to serve these red flag laws, there needs to be a lot of checks and balances, and there needs to be a lot of accountability in how these things are executed.
When we talk about regulation and laws, people need to understand, especially on the left, this is going to take the firearms away from the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers and the white militiamen. They're not. Those people don't have any interactions with the police normally, right? You pass these laws, you're going after black men, you're going after brown men, you're going after poor people.
At the end of the day, there's systemic racism, and then it leads to black and brown people being criminalized. And I'm curious when it comes to passing more gun law.
Okay. Well, in that episode right there, you also saw the stuff coming out with the red flag laws. Now, the girl on the left, the one who, served in the army and whatever, Again, in many of these questions, when you do see the mental gymnastics that a lot of the people that have, that even though that they've got their guns and they love their guns, even the gentleman there, the black gentleman, who was basically saying that he had his guns were drawn on him when he went to a hospital. He wasn't met by a doctor or a nurse or whatever. I'm sure, unfortunately, okay, that happened to him. But I have a feeling too that he's dramatically overplaying what happened, because I will tell you, as a physician, you're working at these places. When people come in, nobody is thinking, you've got black nurses, you've got black doctors, you've got brown doctors, you've got yellow doctors, you've got Asian doctors, you've got Hispanic doctors, you've got, doctors from Africa, doctors from Sweden, doctors from Norway, doctors from Wisconsin, from California, from Florida, from all 50 states and around the world. Same thing goes for all the nurses and all the PAs and all the LPNs and all the other people there, okay? So don't give me this freaking crap. I will call you out and say that I don't believe a word of it. I don't know where you got that idea from, but when you went into the hospital, if your life was on the line and you're telling me that they just let you sit there on a stretcher bleeding to death, well, the investigators were talking to you. If you're bleeding to death, how the hell are you answering questions to those investigators? I don't think that's true at all. I think you went there, you were stabilized, they made sure that you weren't dying, and that's when the investigators came. I'm just telling you like it is, folks. Nobody is going to hospitals and people are saying, that guy came over here. You know what? Let's have let's all collude together. There's a big collusion going on. That's not, it's the illusion, the delusion that there's a collusion for you, sir. All right? And getting back to the girl who served, again, we were talking about the mental gymnastics that's going on. Because what happens is that now they're talking about, red flag laws. That could take away my guns. So all of a sudden now it becomes personal to them. Now you got to think about it. Who's going to make those decisions? Who's going to decide who's going to take the guns? When are they going to take them? What mental status? What this? What that? All these questions come up. So the mental gymnastics starts to come into play. And now they're basically at odds with a lot of the people that they seem to be on the same side of, the left, the progressive, the wokesters, the social justice warriors, those people that are virtue signaling. But now that red flag law could affect them in the future, maybe. Somebody could deem them to be, not able to have their guns or whatever. So now all of a sudden, as I said, it becomes personal. Now you got to start thinking a little bit, hey, how do I prevent this from happening to me? Because it's all about me now. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. This is part 4 of the debate with Vice, bringing in all people from all various backgrounds, asking about why they like their guns and why they like to shoot them. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, like, share, and follow us. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.